JasperRumble.com. You can check us out at Facebook. You can check us out at YouTube. Check us out at Rumble. If you like this kind of content, man, please like, share, and subscribe. Help us help you, because all of this is basically free. We've got the privilege of sitting down with Jasper County Judge Mark Allen. Mark, appreciate you taking time with us, man.
Hey, Jay. Appreciate you, bro. Thanks for coming and visiting.
Absolutely. So, we're here in 2023, man. I don't know if you ever thought you'd get to 2023, but we're here.
Woo, yeah, I'm just happy to be alive in 2023.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. I think after COVID, everybody's glad we're alive.
Yes.
But now, so kind of tell me what you guys. I mean, a lot of things have changed here with the Commissioner's Court.
Sure. Yes.
Been a transition there,
Yeah.
and what are some of the things that you guys are looking at or kind of forecasting out for the new year?
Okay. Yeah, we got a lot of stuff actually. Let me just back up a little. County government, a lot like a lot of the other ones, city government, schools, you really don't ever just say, okay, January 1st, we're starting, boom.
Right.
Typically what you do is you're carrying the water from the previous year and you're going forward with projects that you've either been planning or have been implemented, so you just start moving forward.
Sure.
So, we've got a new court, you're exactly right. We've got Commissioner Precinct 2, Kevin Holloway, he's on board. And we've got Commissioner Precinct 4, Dennis Marks, he's on board. I feel like they're going to be a great contributor to our court. They're motivated. They want to serve. They want to be involved and help. So, I think that's going to be really good for us. And we've also got some other new officials. Miss Thomas, county clerk, she came on board. She was interim for a while after Miss Newman retired, but now she's on board. And we're just going to continue moving. They've been doing this since 1836, so we just keep carrying it, moving forward.
Very good. Very good.
But you mentioned, what we got going. Our court's got several grant projects going right now.
Okay.
We've got about close to 14 million, 13.9 million dollar project on US Highway 96. You and I had talked about it several months ago, I believe.
Yeah.
Whereby we're going to be working on the drainage. As of day before yesterday, we're all like, hey, wait a minute, it rains. So we're again, it's always good to get that friendly wake up call. We were
8 inches and I don't know how many inches it was,
but fill a pond.
Yeah.
You go from drought season for several months to all of a sudden, hey, what do we do with this?
Sure.
But we were fortunate. We've got our brothers and sisters down in Jefferson and Orange counties. They were hit by some tornadic activity, and just keep them in your prayers. But they, we dodged a bullet on that one. But it also is just a friendly reminder that there's a lot of work that needs to be done toward the drainage and improving that drainage, getting that water out away from our homes, our businesses, off these streets, so they can be passable, and just being able to get it to where it needs to be, whether it's in the creeks or into the rivers and into the lakes, then it can go out to the Gulf of Mexico and start all over again.
There you go.
But we do have a major project where we were awarded a grant from the General Land Office for that, which we were in the planning phase, but we're about to start getting into the implementation phase with this new court coming in. And of course, Precinct 2 is going to be, no pun intended, neck deep into it, because there's a lot of water issues with Sandy Creek that Commissioner Holloway is going to be working with on this, retention ponds. And then we're going to phase down through Precinct 3, more retention ponds, and then until you get into Precinct 4, where we're going to have a lot of issues with the water where it bowls out, where it plains out in the Buna and Evadale area. But this project will stop south of Buna, right around where the Buna Veterans Memorial is. So,
okay.
Got that going. Commissioner Holloway's already picked up the reins on a County Road 200 project, which is about a $4.5 million project in his precinct up in the Brooklyn area. That's a large drainage improvement and repaving project. All 4 court members are involved right now in another project, which we were awarded another grant round through Texas General Land Office, around $13 million. I know in Precinct 1, Commissioner Martindale's got a couple of major resource center projects whereby he's going to have a couple of staging areas built in his precinct with some of his portion of the money to be able to use for training, sheltering, services to the community, and all this small scale type service community centers. It's going to be really good. Several county road projects are going to be involved in Commissioner Holloway's Precinct 2 which are going to be more repaving, improvements, and drainage.
Right.
Precinct 3's got a couple of road projects, but also we're going to be helping the city of Kirbyville and Commissioner Stark's precinct with a major water tower project. They're going to take down the old tower that's by the city park, and they're going to put a brand new one, which will help several thousand citizens in the city and probably out in the ETJ also, that extraterritorial jurisdiction.
Right.
So that's going to be a good deal. Precinct 4, Evadale Water Supply. They are in some serious need of some help, and so we're going to be applying that portion to helping them with their infrastructure and improving the water pressure and the water quality, and maybe even be able to expand out to serve more citizens, hopefully, in that. So got that going.
That's a lot on y'all's plate right off the bat.
Yes, sir. We also got an airport widening project and replacing all of the old lighting and equipment in the beacon with LED type stuff. That project's under works. That's about $2 or $3 million, $2.8 million project.
Okay.
Harrisburg, we just wrapped up a water project for them, improving their stuff and their water holding tanks and things. And we've got another grant we just got for another $350,000 for Holly Huff Water out going to East also to help them with their infrastructure. So we segued from talking about water, rain, too much water to more water, but it's good, clean water. So
there you go, potable.
So anyway, yes, sir. We have several ones, and we got a lot of little projects going on too, trying to help Sheriff's Office, DA's office, juvenile probation, truancy officer grant project for down in Buena. So we've got several things in the works.
A lot of things happening.
Yes, sir.
So at this point, with the beginning of the year, I mean, as is with most business of sorts, you're closing out the last year and trying to get some things off the books and rolling over into this new year. I mean, it just kind of seems to wad up in the first quarter, it almost seems.
Oh, yes, sir, it does. Like we're talking about, in the old days, people would get around Thanksgiving, stretch, calm down, relax, and, get into Christmas, and go, and then go New Year's and say, all right, we're going to crank this bad boy up around first, second week of January.
Right.
But now reality is that nowadays everybody's like, well, we need to get this going by the end of the year. We've got to have this deadline. So you're working on different things, and you're working with state agencies, federal agencies, and everybody's trying to hustle to get things done. And then there's, it's the modern term, Q1. We got to get this going by the beginning of Q1, get this going first quarter of the year.
Right.
Like I said earlier, I said, why don't they just say January?
Yeah.
But
exactly right.
So, yes, sir. They shoot up in the air, gates are open, you're out to shoot, you're going.
Yeah.
And it's part of the ball game, though.
Do you find that a big majority of what you guys are doing, or and I say you guys, and when I say that, I mean you and Commissioner's Court, is really dialing in a lot on grants?
We do. That's a great way to subsidize what we do and what we know we need to do, whether it's helping one of our other jurisdictions, City of Kirbyville, these water control and improvement districts and things like that. But truthfully, it helps to relieve that burden on our local taxpayers. Because otherwise you'd be funding that straight, if you're even able to do it, with local tax dollars or fines and fees. And when you think about it, we all pay state taxes and we all pay federal taxes.
Right.
For the most part, for the most part, we're paying the IRS, we're paying state taxes, but you don't think about those taxes boomeranging around to you.
Okay.
So a lot of the funding and a great majority of those grants I just was telling you about were actually where our money went to Washington, and then they start divvying it out to the different states, whether it's a hurricane or major storm event related, or whether it's just some routine type grant that you apply for.
Okay.
So filters down from DC to Austin, and then we try to get in there and we hustle, because most of them are competitive, and we do everything we can to try to get those grants for our citizens so our dollars can come back, boomerang back to us.
Gotcha.
And it helps us to operate. I mean, we can airport widening just for what we're trying to do. Like I told you, $2.something million, almost $3 million. We got a new radio tower project coming down to the governor's office, $750,000, plus we're using another $2.something million in our ARPA. So it's a $2.87 million project for a brand new radio communications tower for our sheriff's department, our EMS, our fire, emergency management.
Now, is it? I talked to Sheriff here the other day. He said he was thinking that's going to go in the south part of the county. Is that are there kind of dead zones?
Yeah, there's quite a few that we need to work on. And I was a deputy sheriff for years under Billy Rolls, and we used to perfect with our handheld radios. We called it the Statue of Liberty pose. You'd hold your radio up as high as you can, and you try to keep up your mind.
Sure,
so
that's right.
That's been going on forever, and we're trying to fill that, and we're also trying to get where we need to be able to talk to our neighbors to the south, to
Yeah.
the east, to the west. Jefferson, Hardin, and Orange, we're part of the Southeast Texas Regional Planning Commission now. We're that fourth county, and Country Cousins to the north.
Right.
And we're trying to get to where our law enforcement and our emergency services personnel can communicate with them during a major disaster or normal peacetime. You get in a pursuit, you want to be able to communicate and relay that information. Or if they're in a pursuit and they're coming your way,
Right.
you want to be able to talk to them and figure out what's going on. But we're in need of some new towers. This is going to be our very first ever radio tower that Jasper County has ever built. And it's on some land that we own down off County Road 546.
Okay.
We had looked at the possibility of putting it in Roganville, and that might be a secondary or tertiary radio tower site, because we've got some long-term plans to build a couple more. But
I hear Scotty Duncan's got some property over
yeah,
in that neck
that's
of the
right.
woods.
So we'll set up at least that's a joke. No, but we
Set it up in his backyard.
Yeah,
Only.
yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't know if his wife would appreciate that.
Oh yeah. 9 line behind. I mean, there's a lightning rod, literally. But this will help us to be able to do that. It's a 450-foot tower.
Yeah.
It's close enough to the fiber. The reason the planning commission, who is coordinating this grant with us,
Yeah.
is it likes that location. It's going to fill in some holes because Silsbee's got a brand new tower coming up that Hardin County's building. Orange County just did a new tower, so they're filling those holes in. And this network we would hope to be on at some point will help fill all that, so where you key up here, you're able to communicate. Now,
Right.
we always explain to them we're a different topography. We're hilly. Once you get north of Kirbyville, you're beginning to do more and more. Plus, we've
Sure.
got these giant pine trees. They're a blessing, but we got to take that into the equation.
Right.
So, but that's where our starting point is, and then that way we can start working north with
Yeah.
what we need to do. And it's a multi-year process, but this one's going to be up in the next. It's a 2-year grant. We got it several months ago, so we're looking hard at that location.
So, just shifting gears a little bit, how long have you actually been judge?
16 years.
16 years.
Yes, sir.
Do you have retirement in your sights at this point?
Not anytime soon.
No?
To be honest with you, I've got an 11-year-old daughter and a
Yeah.
9-year-old daughter, and
Yeah, because you ain't that much older than me. I don't know.
I just and I enjoy what I do.
Yeah.
As long as I feel like I'm doing some good for the community,
Yeah.
and that's what's important. And but I've still got a ways to go.
Right.
God willing, and the creeks don't rise.
That's
and
right.
I put it in the hands of the Lord and our voters, our
Right.
citizens.
That's
And,
right.
But I try.
Yeah.
I like to row the boat.
Keep hustling. Keep hustling.
Yes, sir.
That's what it's all about.
Amen.
That's exactly what it's about. So if there's some things that you have, do you have anything that you want to speak directly to the citizens about that's happening? Maybe they just need it. I mean, obviously you got a lot of projects going on.
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
you and the commissioners have a lot of projects going on.
Definitely.
But is there any site specific things that people need to be aware of?
Sure. Just work with us when we, and be understanding. We've got commissioners right now that, we had that big rainfall we just talked about. They're really working hard to try to deal with down trees, with roads that have been damaged, because on the north end you've got water that just flows through quick and erodes away. Then it gets down to the south end of the county, just like we talked about, it bowls up and it actually gets up underneath the road's base and it degrades that. So they're working toward trying to get their stuff done. We've got a lot of projects in the works, but it takes time.
Yeah.
It's not like a light switch where you can just say, okay, yep, we're going to build a tower. Click. It's, we're going to run down to Walmart and get a tower. It
Right,
doesn't quite work
right.
that way. So we work through those processes, and you want to do it right, and you want to do it carefully. And so that's kind of what we're doing. But as we get, right now we're in, I don't know what season you want to call this, rain season. Usually around April, May is when we start getting the bad stuff,
Sure.
the rain. Just, if people have questions or needs, concerns, call my office, call the court members. Like I said, everybody's here because they care and they want to see Jasper County improve.
Right.
They want it to be a little bit better than what it was before they came into office, and that's all anybody really wants, is to
Right.
try to make it a little bit better than what it was before you got there.
Yeah.
And so we appreciate what they do. The citizens, we appreciate their support, their prayers, and just being a part of it all.
Yeah.
And just, if they ever have questions on any of our stuff, feel free. We're open to it.
Now, last time we sat down, I think we talked a little bit about kind of the situation that was going on with ambulance service and stuff like that. Is that there's obviously a little bit of rumbling out here on the streets of the fact they've taken way more calls and things of that nature than maybe they had anticipated.
Yeah, I think, and I mean, that's kind of normal too. When a company comes in wanting to do something, I mean, they don't know for sure how it's going to be. I mean,
Right.
if you opened up a store here on City Block XYZ, you don't
Right.
know if you're going to get wall-to-wall people every day of the week, or you're only going to get a little grand opening, a few people, and then you don't get business. Or it may get so big you have to expand your services. So I think from what I understand from some representatives from that group, they have more business than what they thought, which is a good thing.
Right.
But again, when you do have more business, you have to rethink what you're doing. You may have to add to your resources and try to see if you can keep up with the demand.
Right.
And we're in a new world where it's harder to get personnel, employees. It is just a little bit difficult. And your emergency response services, it's really difficult because you're working all these different hours. You're trying to take care of your family. You're trying to be a part of your family, but then you're working this shift, that shift, and they see a lot of horrors. I know when I was a deputy back in the day, you saw a lot of horrible things that you bring home with you. In medical services, people, they don't only just see it, but they put them in a vehicle or an ambulance, and they take them to the hospital, and they try to keep them alive all the way to wherever they got stuck.
Right.
So it's
pretty hard.
It really is.
I mean, it's hard mentally and emotionally.
Oh yeah, it didn't just slap a Band-Aid on somebody. There's a lot to that, and a lot of times they may lose somebody. It's just what happens. And so, heart attack victim, stroke, those things happen. So they carry that on their shoulders. So that's a difficult job. And
does it look like as far as industry coming into the area, are there any talks of industry that you heard of?
Well, there are a couple things. I know that there's a group looking once again at the old LP mill out here off 63, where 63
on the
branches
left hand side, on the north side.
Yes, sir. There's a group looking at that. There's also that little expansion that may be going on with the glycol plant out there that's been going on. We've got a few small things here and there going.
Yeah.
We're really watching, which just doesn't affect directly as far as the economy per se of business here, but the Chevron Phillips project going on down in Orange right now is going to be a major expansion. And just like we were talking about earlier about oil and gas industry, we have got people, I know down on the south end, but as far as up here in Jasper, chomping at the bit, waiting for them to start those projects up.
Right.
Because we've always historically been a bedroom community for the oil and gas industry. I mean, everybody's got they're either working it, or they got kinfolk that's working it, or grandma, grandpa, dad, mom that has worked down there, whether it's the old Texaco days, Star Enterprise, Huntsman, Exxon, Mobil, Chevron, Phillips, Shell, go on and on, and major expansions going on there. So that helps us out too, with people coming up here and living and being a part of it. But we're constantly looking for new ways to expand. We do have, and I know you're familiar with what went on with Rowe Elementary, Jasper ISD, their board sold that to the food bank. And the food bank is going to turn that into not just a food bank, but it's going to be a major distribution center whereby we will be able to help provide support for Jasper County, Newton County, maybe Tyler, San Augustine, Sabine, wherever anybody in need, we're going to be able to operate. Now, they did that for a couple of reasons. One, to expand their reach, but also because this will enable them to continue activities in case we get another Harvey type event or a Rita or something which will knock out everything down south. They can actually operate. But you're going to have some full-time staff up here. From what I understand, there's going to be possibly some medical resources there. There's going to be several other services that are going to be available at Rowe.
Plus, if it's a hub, then you're basically, when everything hits the fan, it kind of puts you in a situation where, okay, we've got this hub up in Jasper, we can start localizing some support.
That's exactly
American Red Cross and all these different other sources and resources that come in.
Exactly right.
So that may be a really
wonderful
good thing.
I think they're sitting on about 15 acres.
Yeah.
So that thing's going to be right there at 190 and 63.
Yeah.
That's going to be a wonderful thing for our community to have for many reasons. It's going to help feed our needy, but also it'll be a main point to help take care of all the resources. Plus, like I said, they're looking at medical resources there too, and a lot of other things that people can go to on a day-to-day basis. Thinking about 190, I said 190 and 63. Had a meeting also with TxDOT earlier this morning. Looks like 2023 is our year for the Steinhagen Bridge. I think they're going to start that project up.
Start expanding it?
Correct. Yeah, they're going to actually take the old truss bridge out, and it's going to widen that bridge up, and it'll be open air, so we'll be able to have larger traffic come through there, more traffic come through on 190.
Gotcha.
Safer, because we've all driven that thing. And I want to say 2024, the date is the date for the Burris Ferry Bridge up in Newton County.
Okay.
I don't want to speak out of turn. I know that's Newton County stuff with TxDOT and Louisiana, but that helps us a lot too, because that's like that's like having sinus congestion during hay fever season. You can't, you got Steinhagen here, you got that one there. Once they open those two up, man, it's going to be boom, you know what I mean? And that's going to really help us with a lot of our commerce, people coming through, coming down 63 to hit 190,
right.
And then same thing with people going east. It's gonna be a wonderful thing for us.
Do you obviously, the way I'm thinking about it, it seems like that's going to be the 14 corridor.
I think so, and that's a preliminary thing.
Kind of like preliminary starting pieces
Correct.
of, okay, we need to address these two areas.
Yes, sir.
And then start looking at expansion,
Exactly.
that type of thing.
Exactly. They want to open it up, and of course, I-14 is only around 50, 60 miles or so that they built from Fort Hood moving out east, but
Right.
There's regular planning meetings on that, and of course, once we get closer to Jasper County in Jasper, we'll know more. Now that's going to be years down the road. It's like, every time we talk about it, they're like, oh man, well, they're not going to try to take this land, are they? Or I'll have people say, hey, I got some land, I'll sell you. And
Right.
no, everybody slow down.
Right.
But when it does come, it's going to come through or somewhere around Woodville and somewhere around Jasper, and that's what the congressional record reflects.
Yeah.
Thanks to Congressman Babin. And one step further, Congressman Babin also helped, along with Senator Cruz and Warnock. They actually introduced this bill whereby the US 96 corridor going south to the ports of Beaumont and Orange, or ports of Beaumont and Port Arthur, is actually going to be a spur, an interstate spur at some point. So
Okay.
You'll have one on 69, you'll have one on 96, whereby that traffic will come out of there. And that's also we worked hard on that last year to get that step. So are you for this?
Man, I'd hate to be the guy that's in charge of that, just simply for the fact of how do you navigate around Lumberton?
Oh yeah, that's gonna be something, because
you got to figure that out.
Oh yeah, and they've already got a couple of ideas. At 69 they've been working on the ideas for that bypass for a while. 96 they got a couple of ideas. It'd be good if they would merge them and just have it, but
sure,
that's their world. but they that's going to be something that's really going to help us out. Now, will we see it a year from now, 5 years from now? No, but that's something that we're doing for our kids and grandkids.
Right.
Anything we do today should be mindful of what we can do to benefit those future generations.
Well, it's kind of like the little bypass that they built there in Evadale.
Yeah.
Most people don't remember the four-way stop.
You had to stop.
Yeah, everybody had to
People be out
stop and wait, and everybody.
Back in the day, somebody'd have a little bonfire sitting out there. Back in the day, and you had to just look like, what's going on out there? But yes, you're right. You could go when you were going south.
Yeah.
You could just go straight through. But if you were coming north, you had to stop.
And it really, those adjustments that they've made from Jasper all the way down.
You're right.
Because I remember the 2-lane between Kirbyville and Buna.
Oh yeah.
It was a nightmare. Especially. Can you imagine it? I knew growing up that we had a lot of traffic accidents there. Between Kirbyville and Buna,
right,
because that 2-lane.
Oh yeah.
Now, if you put cell phones in people's hands,
man,
it would have been way worse.
Oh yeah. Could you imagine?
Oh,
yeah. Time is for everything.
Yeah. So it's almost like it's all these little adjustments and things like that have really made it quick to get down to Beaumont if you need to.
Correct. And you think about it. You and I remember it, and a lot of people do, but a lot of young folks are like, "Well, it's always been there." No, it hadn't. And people driving today are like, hey, young people that are just getting their license are like, what do you mean it wasn't like this before?
Yeah.
You remember 96 going to Jasper from Kirbyville?
Yeah.
Remember that stuff? That was always fun. But yeah, being a deputy trying to.
That's right. It's almost like watching what they've done up here in Zavala.
Exactly. Oh yeah, that's a monster. Remember before you pulled up, you had the Exxon station on the right.
Horrible.
But it's changed, and that's part of it. And you got to work slowly. You got to stay on them. You got to stay on the state agencies and work with them, and make sure that they know that you're still interested in those projects. I'll give you, for instance, we talked about 96. North of 255, that plan is still in the works for that widening project too. I think Harvey may have slowed us down with the I-10 stuff that they've had to do.
Right.
But because they really had to do a lot of rethinking on that stuff all the way down that line on the coastal bend. But up here, we're still working with them on that, and that's due to let around 2027.
Okay.
For the 4-lane widening project all the way up to the Sabine County line.
Okay.
And we're in the Beaumont district, and they're doing us a great job, and I appreciate them. But then they have to hand the baton off to Lufkin, and then it's going to be up to Lufkin to decide how they want to continue to get that thing up there. Because I mean, hurricane evacuations, we've all seen what it's like. It bottlenecks up when you hit 255, and then there's, everything's rocking and rolling until you get there. So,
yeah.
And they're aware of that. They're doing everything they can. Same thing holds true at 69. You hit the 2-lane and bam. So, but we're working with them on that project too. It's a TxDOT project, and but we're going to keep reminding them in a pleasant manner that, hey, hurricane season's coming. We're going to get this thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I asked Sheriff Burby over in Newton County. I said, "What's the toughest part about being a sheriff?" And he said, without hesitation, he said, "I can't clone myself."
Yeah. Oh yeah, you can. Yeah.
So I guess my question is for you: what do you feel like is kind of the toughest part about your position in your job?
Well, I can't clone Sheriff Burby. No, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. No, it is trying to be everywhere at once. That's one thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of it. And I'm kind of the girls will tell you I'm a workaholic.
Yeah.
But you got to be. You really got to be dedicated to it. You got to be committed to it. And like we're talking about timing, I'm one of those guys that would love to just hit the light switch and have a tower come up, or get 96 finished, or that and the other.
Right.
So I've always got to kind of check myself and just say, all right, look, Mark, this is going to take time. Let's work on this, and what can we do to get there? 20 years from now, if we'd have said, well, we're going to put a tower in wherever, we'd have been like, well, what? What? And but it takes time, and it takes time for the systems to work and technology to catch up also.
Right.
So, but dealing with just all the different things that go on. You got your budgeting, you've got this, you got mental health, you've got, which is a growing issue, I think, statewide, nationwide. But you've got just all your nuances. Taking care of this courthouse.
Yeah.
She was built in 1889, so she needs special love, and we try to do everything we can to keep her running. And I'm proud of it. We're one of the few courthouses that are this old that are still fully functioning as an actual center for business.
Right.
We're government marked, and
Right.
we're just, but we, and I want it to continue doing that on into another 100 and something years. But it takes work, and so I take care of that stuff. I do a little bit of everything, but you do stay busy.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about, taking care of business.
Absolutely. So let's talk about mental health for a moment, because it seems like everybody that I talk to, the numbers on mental health just continue to go out the roof.
Yeah.
The lack of beds continue to be a problem.
Yeah.
The Burke Center's great, but at the end of the day, there's only so many beds and so many people.
Right.
Is there anything specific that comes to your mind? And I don't even know if the county can kind of address this, or if this is a private business type situation where, are there any, is there anything that we can do? And like I say, I don't know if this is private or if this is government, but what do you feel like is the biggest need to fix that problem, or help kind of ebb the overflow?
Well, and I won't speak out of turn, but and I respect Burke for what they do. For the record, though, Jasper County in December we voted to go ahead and formally initiate the process of moving to Spindletop down in Beaumont.
Okay.
But we support them. We participate in their programs,
right.
but that's something we're looking at doing to help improve mental health, not just for crisis patients that our officers have to deal with regularly, but also for the ongoing care and counseling, and just to ensure that people stay out of crisis.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. But if you have an insurance card or you've got some other payer source, it seems like, I know dealing with what we deal with now, that boom, you can usually get them a bed pretty quick, you know. But if they don't, and a lot of our population that has mental health issues have no payer source, have no Medicaid, Medicare, insurance, what have you, veterans. So we typically And I do mental health commitments quite a bit, or emergency orders. Typically, I'll have somebody go to Burt, get screened, come to me, and then either the sheriff's department or the police departments, either it's Kerrville or Jasper, we'll go from there. But they're usually trying to do everything they can to try to find placement for somebody if they're recommended a higher level of care by a counselor or professional from Burt. So,
Right.
Bed space is a key. State of Texas, and we're hoping they're going to dedicate more funds to it, but we really need to put a parentheses on that and say rural funds, rural beds, not just funds
Right.
for Texas, because if
I mean, you look at Houston versus Dallas, and look at us.
Exactly. You build one in San Antonio, Dallas, or Houston, a mental health facility
Sure.
with 100 beds. Well, what's going to happen is they will fill those bad boys up in 30 days, and
Yeah.
we're going to be back where we were with rural needs. So we have to back up a lot and look and say, okay, wait a minute. We do have mental health patients. They have mental health patients, but we're a totally different dynamic.
Yeah.
And you've got to basically try to parlay every resource you can to try to get somebody taken care of without putting them in the jail, because they don't need to be in the jail.
Right.
They really don't need to be in the ER, because that puts everybody in danger also. So
Yeah.
you've got two choices once somebody's had an order or a peace officer has to do an emergency commitment. And really and truly, we should be able to get them to the mental health emergency center that we've all participated in creating years ago at Burke. They keep them, they begin the process until they can get them a permanent placement, or at least a placement for an extended period. But
Right.
that's a lot of issues. And they come back to us and say, well, we don't have funding, we don't have beds, we don't have this. So
Right.
everybody keeps hitting that wall. So we're trying to think outside the box. I visited with the sheriff. As a matter of fact, Friday we had a really good visit with Newton County, Tyler County, with the judges and the sheriffs and several of the support staff on what can be done. Kind of a learning type deal from Spindletop, whereby they showed us some of the things that we need to try to do at our level for more efficiency.
Right.
And to also kind of go from there. Meanwhile, Jasper County still has its plans. There was another meeting yesterday. It was a hybrid Zoom type call where Burt had a meeting with the sheriffs and judges. I was on it also, just trying to brainstorm. What can we do?
Right.
Can we beg them for more money? If we do beg them for more money, where do we want this money put? Do we want them to give it to Burke and say, okay, we're going to do this, or do we want them to build more beds in Rusk, or what other services?
Yeah.
To add to the confusion, you also run into what's called a forensic issue, whereby you have criminally charged defendants who are in jail who have competency issues, and they need to actually be declared competent or go for treatment until they can become competent, so that they can actually answer for their crimes. So
Right.
there's a major backlog at our sheriff's department. There's a major backlog at every sheriff's department in those jails on this right now too. So you've got you're just basically off the street folks that need help, your forensics that need help, and we're
All kind of at a loss
yeah.
for what to do.
Oh yeah, and families come into my office all the time distraught. I know they're coming into Mitchell's office all the time distraught.
Right.
We do everything we possibly can to help them, but sometimes it feels like you've got a whole bunch of Titanic survivors out there, and everybody's grabbing for a door or a raft or something to hold on to.
Right.
And it really, really hurts.
Yeah.
And so, again, we go above and beyond. I've done commitments on the weekends, 3:00 in the morning, whatever it takes to. If there's a family that's in need, we do what we have to do.
Yeah.
But once we get to that wall where it's like no beds, so you need to keep them for the next 72 hours or whatever long.
Right.
It shouldn't be like that.
Yeah.
We are our brother's keeper.
That's exactly right. And I mean, I remember whenever I was growing up, it was almost like you would hear of somebody who had some mental issues.
Yeah.
And it was like, my dad was a preacher. He got a call one morning of some fella in his 20s,
Yeah.
in his neighbor's flower bed eating the flowers or whatever.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's like, holy smokes,
Yeah,
what's going on? But it was so rare.
Right.
It was so rare. And nowadays, it almost seems like, I asked Mitchell if he felt like they've lowered the bar on what mental instability is. And, of course, he had a good answer for it. But to me, it almost seems like, it's such a big problem that it's almost going to require the community as a whole to respond.
Well, I think so in part. Now, there's some things you don't want them to get hurt trying to deal with somebody who's in crisis.
Sure.
But
I mean, if you think about it, I mean, we've got 1,001 churches in this community that could probably, I mean, in Jasper County, Newton County.
Yeah, and they really do step up a lot of times with
to try to help
the congregation or people that they're familiar with.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. I don't think it's just a turnkey fix.
No.
Unfortunately,
and where they run into problems is they try to help, but sometimes they may lack the resources for actual true counseling or trying to keep them out. Sometimes it's medication. They can't afford the medication.
Right.
You know, you'd be surprised how many people we can go send. They come back okay, but then after X number of weeks, they're off their medication or they're trying to make one tablet last for however long. Again, it's a financial thing. They can't do it. They don't have the insurance. And so we run into that. And the next thing you know, they're in crisis again or they're acting out. And,
right.
You can't walk more than a block in any direction. You probably would see somebody. And it's like that everywhere now. And,
I remember that one fella who lived in Buna, who you'd see walking all the time in Buna. And he'd be flipping that coin and all this stuff, but it was so rare.
You're right. Yeah, back in that day, you very rarely saw them.
You very rarely saw that. I mean, so it almost seems like, either the problem is just, maybe it's in the drinking water. I don't know, or maybe it's in something. Maybe our diets haven't helped. But I mean, I think a lot of it, it's kind of like the sheriff was talking about with how the drugs affect the mind.
It does, yeah. I mean, you can blame it on different things, breakdown of society, video games, whatever.
It's probably a little
everything, but when you get down to it, a lot of times you hit it right on the head, though. The drugs, Mitchell's right, drugs kind of begin to start, because a lot of the ones we deal with regular, frequent flyers basically coming through on the criminal side of things, they'll do something, criminal mischief, or they'll assault somebody, hurt somebody, but they obviously have mental illness issues. They're in there, and you go back and look at a lot of their histories, and sure enough, they were being handled back in the day when they were much, much younger, and it's for different drug offenses.
Right.
And what it does, it really does. Methamphetamines, you've got all these other ones out there. Of course, what is it? Fentanyl, Oxycontin, all these other things out there. And it does. It causes a breakdown, a slow breakdown. That's really the worst. I used to deal with that a lot when I was at the sheriff's office and with the DA's office. You saw a lot of cases, and you saw what it did to the people.
Right.
And you saw what it did to their families. And again, I've had them come in here broke down crying because their son or daughter couldn't get off of it. Heroin, they always talk about, you can't get off that monkey off your back. It's there. And it's,
right.
Meth is the gift that keeps on giving too, because it'll get them and it'll hold them, and it's so easy to get. Yeah. And it really is. It is tearing up our society. Yeah. And it is one of our problems with our mental health. And,
well, in conclusion, I have one question for you.
Yes, sir.
And this is totally shifting gears, but was Miss Newman as much of a character here as she is online?
She's a character no matter what. She's a mess. She's a riot. She is. She's always, and I worked with her for several years, even before coming into office, and but she's always laughing, always has a joke, always cutting up, whether it's wearing a Indian headdress. Whether it's singing, dancing, but you
just never know.
She's something else. Yeah. And you remember she came through here yesterday, and we had been wanting to give her a plaque. She retired early, like I said, a few months ago, but she had just gotten back from working their cows out there in Beech Grove at their place, and she's a darling.
That'll be our little plug for the Beech Grove reality show.
That's exactly right. Amen. You make sure you watch it.
That's right.
But she has done a lot for our community, a lot for our county. She managed those elections. She earnestly cared. And you hear all kind of stories from all these other counties, but she earnestly focused as hard as she could to make sure these elections were done properly and leave as little to question as possible to protect, and has done this forever, way before people started even questioning that kind of stuff. And she cared about her people that she worked with, all of her employees, all of her election judges. She made it a family.
Yeah.
And still to this day, she'll come running in here and cut up, and she ain't changed.
Honestly, it just seems like kind of the carriage that both her and Mitchell both have.
Yeah.
It's just kind of everybody's their kids in a way. You know?
Yeah.
And so, is there anything that you want to just kind of conclude our talk here with just telling the people what, maybe something that's important to you or on your mind?
Well, I appreciate you for offering me the opportunity, and I appreciate the citizens of Jasper County for supporting me and supporting our court in this county. And because you're the whole reason that we do it.
Yeah.
And I'm starting my next term now, and with our new court. And again, I'm looking forward to it because, like I said earlier, it's all about making it a little bit better than what it was before. And we've got a lot of good projects going on the ground, a lot of them already in the back burner that we're about to pull to that front burner.
Right.
And so just kind of work with us and watch for us, and hopefully we'll do a little bit of good.
Bear with you. You're making progress.
Amen. And pray we don't get another hurricane.
There you go.
Or whatever the Winter Storm Uri stuff. Sure. February is our month. So,
sure.
It may be 90 degrees January 31st, but February 1st it may be -4.
Well, I stepped out there this morning. It was in the mid-30s, and I was like,
crazy.
what in the world?
Yeah, I'm like, what is going on? What was my dad used to say? What in the wide world of sports is going on? And, so I'm telling my age too.
I remember that. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to Not on the Payroll right here at notonthepayroll.com. If you like this type of content, we ask you to like, share, and subscribe. Go check us out at Facebook, YouTube, and on Rumble. Appreciate you for listening.